Okay, so today we have Patty Thomas back to do some assistive tech. And she's actually going to show us some of the built-in tools on the Chromebook, right, Patty?
Yes.
Which maybe you have already seen because our kids are really good at finding them and turning them on and then not knowing how to turn them off. So you'll see. You'll probably recognize, yep, I've seen that before and had to call ID. So I'm gonna let Patty take it away.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, everybody. Of course, I'm gonna lose my voice right when I start. So it used to be Apple computers was like the leader in accessibility features for computers and online. And while they're still really in the forefront of things, Chrome and Android devices and other platforms have really done a nice job of trying to catch up. And what we find, once again, from assistive technology standpoint, is that they are beneficial to a wide range of users. So I use a lot of assistive tech just in my everyday, and it would be considered assistive tech for somebody who had to use it for a disability. But for me, it's just enhanced technology. And what defines something as assistive tech is if it's required for a student or a person with challenges to access whatever it is that they're trying to do. And a lot of times, what is considered assistive technology, though, is very beneficial to all of us. So in the Chromebook, I think what I'll do is just I'm going to start screen sharing right away because I'm going to take us through what's on board on everybody's Chromebook without installing extensions or anything. And how to access all of those features and how to toggle them on and off. As Erica mentioned at the beginning, it can be quite a problem if you have a student who has made their way into the accessibility features and functions, and then you have something going on that you are unable to toggle off, and that you'll see what those features are. So in order to go to your Chromebook settings, your Chromebook accessibility features. I have like all these little things popping up in my corner, getting in the way of what I need to access. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to another page just to get out of here. Now, when I want to, you're presenting, click here to return to the vehicle. Okay, I will. All right, when I want to access, now I can do it. So when I want to open my settings, again, there's lots of ways to do that. I can, go from the top menu. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you that way. So if I want to go to my accessibility settings, what I do is I go to the dots at the top right corner, and I click those, and I scroll down to settings, and I click on settings. And then I have some pretty basic things that popped right up. So, because I've been playing with this all morning. So what will end up usually happening is you would go down here, and then I have advanced selected. So let me unselect that. I would click that. I'm going to go back through that again because I feel like I may have missed it. So go down to settings. When your settings pop up, you scroll all the way down, and you will see an additional option for advanced settings. Click that down arrow and then scroll down a little more, and you'll see accessibility. And so what you want to do is select manage accessibility features. And those are the ones that are on board of all Chromebooks. You'll notice down below there are also add some, and those would be apps and extensions to go even further. But for today, we're going to go over what's on board on all Chromebooks. So I select manage accessibility settings, and this window pops up. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And so right at the top of this, I'm going to go through these one by one. Anytime you see something in blue, it's a live link. You can click on that for more information. Oftentimes that'll take you to a web page that gives you a detailed description of how to do these. So, and anytime you don't understand one of these features, or you want to use them, or you want to know what they're for, you can just put it in your search bar and you'll get lots of information. Usually I go to whatever the Chrome information, the help Chrome information, because that's most specific to Google Chrome accessibility. So going down, I'm not going to enable Chromevox because Chromevox is an app for mainly used by people with total visual impairment or so intense a visual impairment that they can't really read the screen. And you put that on and it will read through the screen word by word, tab by tab, and by selection. A person who's visually impaired can hit a select key when it encounters whatever it is that they want to access. When you put that on, when a student puts that on, I'll just do it for a second. I'm not sure if you can hear it there. It will give you spoken feedback of everything.
Settings, manage accessibility features. Chromebox spoken feedback is ready.
So then I would have ways that I would toggle I would toggle on and off and select whatever's being, whatever it is that I want to go to. The next one is enable select to speak. Now this one, if this is off, you won't be using it. When you put it on, what this does is if you go back down to the oval in your bottom right corner, you'll see a speaker right here, and that is the select to speak. So I'm going to show you that when I shut that off, that feature that is no longer available to me. I'm going to put that on, and what select to speak is very similar if you were here for the Read and Write for Google presentation I did a couple weeks ago. It's very similar to that. When you select to speak, the very next thing you do, oh, did I get it? 1 second. Yeah, the next thing that I do will be, the next thing that I click and drag on will be spoken. So I'll do that here. I'm going to do I'm just going to have it say this. So the pink box will now be read aloud.
Text to speech.
So now it's gone. So if I want to select to speak another thing, I have to go and activate that button again. And then the very next thing that I select will be spoken.
Enable select to speak.
Okay. And that's really convenient. Like if you don't necessarily want everything read on a page, but you just want a few words, or if a word is tough if I had this on and I had, say, a challenging time with larger words or longer words, I could do select to speak. I can also select an entire caption, an entire article, and then listen to it very much like I did, very similarly to how I would do with Read and Write for Google. All right. So that's select to speak. I just toggled out of my things. All right. And I leave that on. There are additional settings for that would change the voice, and that would change the rate of speech and various other options in the select to speak. The next one is text to speech, and those are the voice settings. So that's where I get different voices. Rate, pitch, can be higher pitch, lower pitch. There's a lot of options in here. Okay, I'm going to go back. Moving down the line, the next, so there's bigger categories. So the first category is text to speech. The next category is how you can change your display. So this would be also usually for people with visual impairments and either total visual impairment or minor visual impairment. The display, you can use a high contrast mode on your screen. So when you put that on, it changes it to black and white. Sometimes that's nice for just give your eyes a break. You can put on a magnifier. There's actually a few different ways to make text larger to zoom in on things. And one is a full screen. The other is to go window by window. And then another is to change your resolution altogether for everything. So because I don't think we have a lot of people with visual impairments in our district, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because there's other stuff to cover. But if you do have a child or a student with a visual impairment, or an adult, and you want more information, please contact me about that. The one thing I will say is that there are shortcuts that allow you to do this really quickly and on the fly. And so one of them is to use on your actual keyboard. If you look next to your backspace button, you'll see the plus and equal sign and the minus sign and a dash. If you hold down your control button and hit the plus, it will make that particular window larger. Hold the minus and it will go back. And you'll see also on the screen, you'll see where it pops up that I can, once I do that once, it allows me to go through this. I can toggle back and forth by hitting it with a mouse or trackpad. So that's just a really, I will do that sometimes if I can't see something in a picture. Say I'm on social media and I want to zoom in close to something. I'll hit Control plus sign like 3 times, and then it brings it way in close, and then I back it out again. Okay, so that's control. That's a way to zoom in on a page. If you want everything on your computer larger, then you would do full screen, and then if you wanted more specific word by word, you would go into magnifiers. The next area for accessibility features is keyboard and text input. And going down the line, the first one is called sticky keys. So what happens when you enable sticky keys is it allows for a longer response time in between when you hit keys. So when you need to hit multiple keys at once for making something happen. For example, I just hit Control and plus sign. Sometimes we hit Control copy to copy something, and then so we hit Control C, and then we hit Control V to paste. So what sticky keys let you do is I put sticky keys on, and then when I hit Control, you'll see up here that a little window pops up and tells me what button I have activated. So that is now going to be attached, stuck to sticky keys, the next key that I hit. So if I hit, let me go back and do this differently. I'm going to unselect that. So say I wanted to copy the words text input. With sticky keys, I would hit Control. Now I see up here that Control is highlighted, and I would do C. Now I have that copied, and then I could take that over to a document. I'm just going to go put that here for fun. So I would hit Control, and I see that comes up again in the upper left, V, and that pastes. So Control C and Control V, but those are just 2 sequences of keys. So the sticky keys holds memory of sequences of keys together. When you hit whatever keys you hit, so sometimes Control Alt Delete used to be a thing that we would do. So I would go Control, so that's been hit, Alt has been hit, and now whatever I do next, if I add Shift to that and search any or all of those, and now if I hit any of those again, they get underlined because sometimes you have to hit something twice. Let me undo Alt. So for example, if I wanted to hit Control twice, then that's going to stay on, or it would be the same as if I were to hit Control twice in a series of keyboard switches. I don't typically leave that on because it can get in the way if your everyday working doesn't account for that. The next thing is to allow for an on-screen keyboard. And that's particularly helpful if you have a touch screen, but also if you have keys that you want to access that are not, that you either want to be able to click with your mouse, or sometimes you want to find a different character. So you would pull up a keyboard and then highlight, you'd pull up an on-screen keyboard and then highlight a figure or something like that. I'm going to go a little bit further into that in a minute. The one thing about the on-screen keyboard, actually, I'll just do it now. So if you put your on-screen keyboard on and then you go to a document and then you click on here, I should be able to activate my on-screen keyboard. Where is it? Sorry, folks. Let me go back to this settings. Did I have that activated? Enable. Okay. So I'm going to get back to that. Sorry about that. The next thing we're going to go over is enable dictation, which is speak to type. So again, this allows you to speak into any field in the Chromebook. So you may recall, or you may already know, within a document or within other Google apps, you can use voice typing. That is one way to get your text, to get your speech to text. This one it uses the same engines, but it's a little bit different in that when you enable dictation, it also puts icon down here, and so that's the microphone. So if I were to switch off that dictation, that microphone would go away. So that microphone is there. If I put that on, it's waiting for me to enter text. So it caught that. And it's searching for that. I'm going to shut it off and show a more clean representation of how that would work. So I go down to, go down to dictation. I select, I'm going to put my cursor where I want to select, where I intend to enter words, and then search for accessibility features on my Chromebook. Enter. Actually, it doesn't take commands, sorry. So then I would hit enter, and then it would search for accessibility features on my Chromebook. So that is the, oh, I got a little bit lost here. Sorry, folks. So that is the dictation. And I also leave that on all the time. Not that I use it all the time, but again, just like the text to select to speak, you would select it every time you wanted to use it. So it's there and it's easily accessible because it's right on your start menu, but you need to activate it every time. This highlight the object with keyboard focus when it changes is an interesting feature. So whenever I'm on an area of the keyboard, it will, do you see that yellow highlight? So if I click on an area, whoops, there. So wherever I click, wherever the focus is, it draws your visual attention to that area of the keyboard. So I'll shut that off. Highlight the text caret is just if you're moving through text, it will highlight. Do you see the blue highlight behind it? So it shows what's being read at that time. Just again, and in advanced settings on these, you can toggle the changes. And that's when you would go through open device settings. The next is mouse and touchpad. Let me see if I covered everything on screen keyboard. Oh, I wanted, before I moved on to mouse and touchpad, I actually want to go through some things that could be considered accessibility features that are actually on your hardware keyboard that are different than many computer keyboards. So if you have a typical laptop, it won't necessarily be the same, but your kids, your students all have Chromebooks, which have different keys that are than what are on typical laptops or MacBooks or desktop computers. So one of the unique keys is the one that looks like a little magnifying glass. That's called the search key, and that's on the left just below the tab key. And there you can assign like that. So if I hit that key right now, it's just going to bring up my search bar. Okay. And if I hit it again, that'll go away. But I can assign different tasks to that key. I can go deeper into and select what I want that key to mean. And where I do that is keyboard and device settings. So I would go under device for that, and under keyboard for this is on the left where it says search. So I want the search key to search for things. But if I didn't, if say I wanted it to be a caps lock key, I can make it a caps lock key. And then anytime I push that magnifying glass, I would have caps lock on. I'm going to put it back to search because I just like to keep everything. And then the same, and you have any of these functions that you can choose. You can assign these functions, any of these functions to any of these keys. So if you're used to it, the catch is your hardware keyboard is still going to have a picture of a magnifying glass, and it's not going to indicate that that's actually caps lock. There are a few little secrets built in that, let me go back to accessibility. There are a few little secrets. For example, if you push the Alt key at the same time or using sticky keys in sequence, if you push the Alt and Search key, that puts your caps lock on. And then I can hit that again to shut it off, or I can just push my Shift key to shut it off. And there are times, like that's one thing, before I was prepping for today, I didn't know about that little trick. And there were times where I was like, oh, I wish I had a caps lock because I wanted to type something in all capitals, and having to hold the Shift down the whole time, such a problem. But it would be convenient to have caps lock. It exists for a reason. And so now to know that I can hit Alt and so that magnifying glass, and that's caps lock is on. And then it won't go off until I either hit that sequence again or hit the Shift key. Okay. Other, that's all the input. So now moving on to the mouse and the touchpad. So this feature, automatically click when the cursor stops, is for when you have students who have a physical challenge with more like a hand strength or an access. When it does exactly what it says, when the cursor stops, the mouse will click. Not a big fan of that. Not going to go through that because it's kind of obvious what it does. For the next one down, show the large mouse cursor. This has been really helpful for some colleagues of mine who are working with kids online right now and presenting with them, like if they're sharing their screen, or if they're sharing, or if they're doing I think Jamboard, you can change it on your own anyway, but if they're online at the simultaneous to their student, when you hit show large mouse cursor, it does exactly that. It just changes it to a much larger size. And so the arrow would look that big, and then if it's a hand, it would look that big. But you can go anywhere from regular, which is the default, all the way up to, that's mid-size, and then up to this humongous thing. I don't use it, but I have used it in just trying to draw a child's attention to a specific area on the screen. And there's another way to do that too. And that is the next one down, which is highlight the mouse as it's moving, or highlight the cursor as it's moving. So when you toggle that on, you get a little red circle around it. So now I can say, oh, see this up here, it says settings. And then do you see this little magnifying glass? And it just makes it so much easier to see. I actually have a colleague who has a visual impairment who does use this feature just because she loses track of her little teeny mouse all the time. Like that little hand right down there, it's hard to see the white on white. It's barely visible. When you move this, it just highlights where it is. Also, moving it is helpful too. Like a lot of times if I can't find my cursor, I just kind of jiggle and it shows up. But that's highlighting the mouse cursor. There are way more settings again for mouse and touchpad options. And so one of them is tap to click. So instead of having to physically push down on the trackpad, you just would tap it lightly with your finger, kind of like you do on your cell phone, like when you're, opening a document or something. And the same goes for tap dragging. So if you were to enable tap dragging, you would tap it and then you could drag it, drag your cursor across. And sometimes you have to tap it twice. I'm not sure what touchpad acceleration is. I think it just allows you to go. I'm not even going to speak to that because I don't know what it is. So I'll look it up and get back to you. And then the speed is how fast your mouse, what the excursion is across the screen compared to what your finger is doing on the trackpad. So if you want it to go really slow, then the further you move your finger, the less it goes. So this is like me moving my finger from diagonal or left to right, like 1, 2, 3. Whereas if I have, it's taking me forever to get back over to that. Turn that up to fast, and then it's very sensitive and it goes way quicker. So I prefer mine somewhere like in the middle of things. And then the scrolling feature is if you're using your trackpad, it's not letting me scroll right now. I like the Australian. Seems like I may have activated something here that's making my computer unhappy with me. I'm not sure what, but I'm gonna just get out of this. My mouse is acting really weird right now. Like too many changes all in one day. Okay, now it's back. It seems like it might be somewhat back to normal. The final area to cover, which again, some of you at some point may need to use, are the audio and captions. And so the captions, you can toggle these on, and it's whenever audio is playing. So that would usually be like on a YouTube, like on some sort of a video, and it's not completely accurate, but it's basically subtitles. So, and that's when audio and video are playing on your computer. You have all kinds of settings that you can choose for that, but captions come across as subtitles. And I have not tested it out for the accuracy in Chromebooks. I know that the technology around subtitles and captioning has come a long way. So it'd be fun to play around with that a little bit later. The other one is if playing the same audio through all speakers. So if you have a person who has a unilateral hearing loss, and you had, like, or maybe they are stronger or not as strong on one side, and you want everything to be even. If they're missing any audio that's coming through from the left, you'd want it to be evened out and that's more for like stereotypes of things. I don't think any of the software that we use, any of the programming that we use is in our schools with kids is really that sensitive that you would need to shut it off, but you may come up on that. Play sound on startup for me, it's kind of obvious, but and then if you had additional features for that. So my mouse is still acting really weird, sorry. Let me go back to see all of you and stop sharing my screen. Oh, I see why. Has that been going on the whole time? That recording of my words at the bottom? Do you all see that? Thumbs up.
I think you turned on closed captioning in Meets.
Yes,
we don't do that. You did. So we don't see that. I only see that because you're presenting your screen.
Okay.
You only see that, and then so you can see where you have closed captioning on.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So everything was recorded digitally there. So there are just now in this is a little bit of a learning curve for me. Like I could see where you could do a lot with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going back through and needing to read it. Yeah. So
there were way more tools than I ever expected in Chrome.
And I didn't go into all of them. I was trying to keep it like where, the ones your folks are more likely to use. But obviously, if you have questions about any of them, you can always do a Google search. And I, as I say every time, would welcome any questions and opportunities to be of assistance.
Yeah. So. All right. Cool. Let's open up the floor for some questions.
Sure.
Now a little bit of time. Anybody have a question or a comment?
I think we're good.
I think we are. And Patty, Rachel says, thanks, Patty. Always helpful as always.
Thanks, Rochelle.
Awesome. I see a bunch of thumbs up too. Also, thank you so much, Patty. This was great.
Thank you. And take care, everybody. Have a great Wednesday.
Good afternoon. Bye.
Bye.